Good morning. Welcome to Midnight Garage. Hey, in this video, I'm going to be replacing the left cab corner on this F-150. But first I have to go to the auto parts store and pick up the left cab corner because I ordered the right cab corner, which turns out isn't the right cab corner because I need the left cab corner. So, yeah, I'm going to go to the store. Then we'll put it inside. Alright everybody, so it's like 4 hours later. So, I'll take you around, show you what we've accomplished so far. So, got the box off, obviously it's just sitting up on blocks on the frame. Just rather than taking it right off and have it away in the shop. It's just gonna work better for me on this one. So, a couple of things I ran into on this. I don't work on a lot of Fords. I spent over an hour trying to get this tailgate off. I have soaked the heck out of this hinge in penetrating oil. I tried heat, I tried slide hammer, I even tried putting porta-power in there and prying that apart, and I could not get it to come loose. So I ended up having to get in there and get the hinge bolts, which was a giant pain in the ass. But just so you know, if you run into that, it is possible to get them out. I did have to use some heat on those because they're those stupid Torx heads. And as you know, they like to strip. But I got them out. And something else I should have mentioned on this, anytime you're taking a box off of one of these Ford trucks with the Torx head bed bolts, order a new set of bolts ahead of time. I do have a set coming for this because I knew I was going to need them. They're available through the aftermarket. I think they're Dorman. They're not cheap. They're about 140 bucks for the set of bolts, and they come with the U-clips that go in the frame as well. Every one of these, I had to weld a big nut to the top of it, and then use the impact with a 3/4 inch socket to get them out. That works pretty well because obviously welding the nut on there, the heat penetrates down into those rusty threads. So again, huge pain in the ass, but I got it off. So, moving around to the project at hand. So here's what we're doing on this truck. Rusty cab corner, pretty common on, you know, all trucks. Once they get to around this age, this truck's a 2014, so it's, I guess it's only 8-9 years old, but that's about when they tend to go. So, as you can see, that's soft, it's rusted through. By the time you see this, it is rusted through. I tell you guys that all the time, but it's never ever just surface rust, unfortunately. And then, here is the panel we will be installing. In this case, it's an RRP 3149. This is the left side. Right side will be an RRP 3150. These parts are available, like I say all the time too. Any auto parts store will get you these. You don't have to buy them online and pay ridiculous shipping. Just go to your auto parts store. They will get you this. So, between you and I've never done one of these before. I've worked on other style Fords, but I haven't actually done cab corners on one of these. So, same principle as any other truck. I have the battery unhooked already. You never want to... I mean, we're not welding yet, but you never want to do any kind of welding, especially on motor vehicles that are full of computers and sensors and all of that. So, I think what we're going to do to start... Ooh, looks like the rocker's starting to go in there too. Hopefully that's not too bad. I'm just going to trim this out. I'll probably try and stay below this body line. We'll see how that works out. So, I'll trim it down here, see how the metal looks inside. Kind of go around, looks like maybe a couple of spot welds here. So, should be straightforward. So I'm going to start cutting that out. I'll set up the camera and we'll just see how she goes. Alright, so there you can see how far that rust has gone in. So that's the back there. So the rust is kind of continuing on up here. Our cab corner is only going so far. The metal does appear solid, so I'm going to cut that back a little more. I was avoiding taking that running board off. I didn't think I'd have to, but I think I'm going to pull that off right now just to give me some more room to get in there and do a nicer job. So I'll do that and then trim a little more and we'll come back for another look. Alright, so I've got everything sort of fitted up there. It looks like I've got a nice fit on it already. I went to punch some holes for those plug welds, but For some reason my hole puncher wasn't doing its job, but I just need some oil or something. So I'm gonna bring the camera in here a little closer. Make sure it's still recording. So you can see it's not 100% in place because I'm one-handing it, but it's a really nice fit. So it's going to be butt welded. There's no overlap. You can overlap the panel if, you know, like I said before, if you're not real confident in this stuff and just learning, that's okay. But I like to butt weld them whenever possible because it's definitely a nicer job. It doesn't leave that flap of metal inside for moisture to collect in. And then if you can see in there, I've got a nice fit as well. A couple more holes. You can see that factory alignment hole lines up nicely. So I'm going to put a couple more holes for plug welds there, and then prime all this inner the best I can, and we'll get to some welding. And here's something I was going to point out and I forgot about. On these style F150s with a sunroof, that is your sunroof drain. So when your sunroof drains, it goes right into the rocker panel. So crappy design. I don't know why on earth they did that, but that's the way they are. And something else I always do on these, which I'm just going to go over it now because I might not remember about it in the end when I'm all done with the job. Every time I do this kind of welding, this kind of fitting, obviously there's going to be exposed welds in the backside that you can't get to. You can't really get back there with your primer and everything once you've done the welding. So I've got a pressure pot I fill up with used motor oil, and I'll go into the back because there is a bunch of access holes in the back of the rockers, and I will spray the heck out of the inside of this so it's all coated with oil. So that's going to coat the exposed welds. It's going to seep down, you know, it'll get down, it's going to seep down in between these pinch welds and everything, and all the existing stuff. I mean, I'm sure the rest of the rocker panel in this truck, it's starting to rust inside. There's, you know, it still looks good outside, but there's no two ways about it. It's just part of these trucks getting older. But I figured by pumping these things full of oil until it's dripping out the bottom, it makes a little bit of a mess for a while, but it's really good preventative maintenance. And I like to get up inside the box panels and the doors and everything too. I've always done it on my own vehicles, and I always do it on customer vehicles to, you know, just to make my work last a little longer for them. You see, just take that extra little bit of time fitting. These panels typically always fit really nice if you just take that little extra time with them. How'd you like that trick? Eyes closed. Safety squints. So there she is, all welded up. The weld's ground down a little bit. So it's pretty much the end of the day now, so I'm just going to leave it here for now, and then in the morning maybe I'll take you guys along to do up a little bit of body work on this. So as you can see, it's just going to need a really thin little bit of filler. on the inside there. Got a little bit of a touch up with the welder, but I'm going to leave that until morning as well, because I just want to make sure everything's cooled down. I'm always super careful at the end of the day when I've been welding, so I'm going to make sure everything's good here, clean up a bit, and then I will see you guys tomorrow. Yeah, you'll probably see me in about 2 seconds. Well, good morning. It's the next day. So I've gone ahead this morning. I just had a little bit of touch-up welding to do, nothing major at all. So I figured I would take you guys along on the little bit of body work on this. So we'll come in just for another quick look. So there's our cab corner welded in place. Now, of course, it's always important to check your gaps. Now, how well you can see, but we're bang on. Cab corner is exactly where we want it to be. So at this point, I'm going to go mix up a little bit of body filler. Now, what I always do on these first, whenever I've done welding, I'm going to give it a little bit of fiberglass filler, a Duraglass filler first. And it's going to be very, very small amount, but I'm going to squeeze a little on there. And then we'll go on to some body filler after that. So let's go over to the Bondo bench and mix that up. So here's what we're using first. I use Evercoat products, but all the different manufacturers all have similar stuff. So this is just a short-haired fiberglass filler. This is going to give those welds just a little bit of extra protection, because this is more of a waterproof type body filler. So we need not much at all, but we just want to cover up those welds. Well, pretty simple process. A little bit of filler, a little bit of hardener. Make sure it's stirred in really well. And I shouldn't say stirred, I should say just make sure it's mixed in really well. In my experience working in body shops, I've worked with guys that liked to stir. Always seemed to me that created air pockets in the filler, so you end up with more pinholes. I like to fold it, really push out any air that could be in there. Not as critical with this step, but still good practice. Okay, let's go back over to the truck and put this on. So all we're doing with this stuff is just sealing up that weld the best we can. In reality, most of this is just coming right back off, but it's going to stay in any little pockets, any little low spots in that weld that could possibly need a little extra protection. So of course you want to make sure you're really squishing it in there. And there's nothing wrong with body filler as long as it's used correctly. You know, usually when you see it come back, when it's failed in a job, it's usually just because it wasn't really used right, you know, too thick, or put over, you know, an unclean surface, or whatever, lots of reasons, but as long as you use it properly, nothing wrong with it. Alright, so as you can see, that was pretty straightforward. I'm just sanding off that bit of fiberglass filler. So you can see not much stays on there. Just kind of stays in the low spots around the weld. Just going to kind of seal everything up. And a little bit along where I welded on the inside. So now I'm just going to give that a really light coat of body filler. And then we'll sand that off and we'll be almost ready for primer. Alright, so on to a little body filler. So this is the stuff that I use. This Evercoat Z-Grip. Again, not advertising anything, just showing you guys what I use. I like this stuff. Once you do this kind of stuff a lot, you kind of gain a preference on different materials and stuff, but there's tons of stuff out there depending where you are. I'm mixing quite a bit more than I need for that cab corner because I've got a few spots on that tailgate as well. So there's a little bit of body filler sanded back. Again, as you can see, it's very little. Didn't need much. So just a little bit of finishing. So, as always, you want to consistently double check your gaps. Make sure you're staying right where she needs to be. So, I am going to finish up a few other things on this job. I've got some sanding to do on the roof and the tailgate, but once I've got those done, we'll get it into the booth and get some primer on it. Well, good morning. It's the next day. So I got that F150 we were working on in primer end of the day yesterday. I'll take you guys through for a look. So, like I was saying, there's some other work I'm doing on the truck as well, painting the tailgate, painting in front of the roof, and then there's this one cab corner, which is what we were working on. So, I didn't bother filming applying primer, because, I mean, it's what it is. 2 coats of epoxy and 2 coats of high-build urethane, and now it just needs to be sanded and painted. But before I do that, I'm just going to prep up this inside edge, run this in a little farther, do a feather, and paint that inner so that way I can close the door, because I will probably be blending to this line on the bottom of the door to ensure color match, because this is a tri-coat pearl. Or I might just chance it and see if it matches, but we'll see what I decide after I do that. And I've actually got to paint the inside bottom lip of the tailgate as well, so I'm going to get those done, and then I'll move on to prepping, because I plan to have this truck prepped and painted today, because I've got it booked to have the windshield put in first thing tomorrow morning, because tomorrow is Thursday, and I'm taking Friday off because it's our car club car show weekend. So, I'm going to carry on, and I'll bring you guys back for a look when there's something to look at. So there's our cab corner all primed up. A little bit of paint on that inner edge. I'm just kind of blended it in there. Now we're just going to prep this up, get it ready for paint. What I'll be doing in this case, now this is a tri-coat pearl. As you can see, it's the pearl paint. So these are a little bit tricky, so you've got a base coat that's kind of that off-white, and then there will be a transparent pearl coat that goes over top of that, and then the clear coat. But what I think I'll be doing here, I will probably blend off the clear up on the cab corner here somewhere. There's no point getting up real high there, so I'll be able to blend off the clear around about there and then polish it back. So I'm going to get this sanded, and then we'll be almost ready to get it in the booth. Well, it's been a couple days since I was last prepping on this job, so I am ready to start getting some paint on it now. We ended up doing some more work on the truck, so we've added some paint work to it over the cab corner, roof, and stuff that we were initially doing, but that's cool. So I figured I'd set up the camera and kind of take you guys through the steps of a tri-coat pearl paint job. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to tack this down. I'm going to go put some of the base color in my gun. Now with these tri-coat pearls are typically a base of, pretty much the white that you see there. That's kind of a creamy off-white. You let that set, and then you've got a couple of coats of a really transparent pearl that goes over top. And then after the pearl, of course, you've got the clear coat that gives it the shine, hence the tri-coat color. So I'm gonna go mix up some paint, grab a tack cloth, and get ready to start spraying here. So I figured while the white base is setting, I'd bring you guys in here so you can see what the pearl top coat looks like. So as you can see, that looks kind of milky in the cup. So there's what you're spraying on top of the white. It's just that pearl. So very transparent, definitely doesn't cover or hide anything. So make sure you achieve complete coverage with the initial color. So we're going to give it 2 coats of this, and then we'll be ready for a clear coat. So there's that for today. I'm gonna let this cure until tomorrow, and we'll put this old girl back together and get it back to the customer. Oh, and just in case you're curious up there, I kind of blended the clear off around the sunroof. I was just doing a solvent blend when you saw me come in and put one last coat up there. But this looks good. I'm happy with it. So, till tomorrow. All right, it's almost the end of the day, and that wraps up another job. So, she is cleaned up, ready to go back to the customer. So, there's the cab quarter we replaced. Something I mentioned while I was working on it, that I like to treat the inside. You see the puddle of oil underneath. I've sprayed a bunch of oil inside the cab corner, kind of up in there a bit, so it's going to coat those welds and seep down into the seams. So it makes a little bit of a mess for a little while, but it's good preventative maintenance. So I do hope that that'll help somebody out with the projects if you're wanting to maybe tackle doing these cab corners. They're a little tricky, but they're not too terrible to do. Super common. It seems like all of these trucks need cab corners, but you know, whether you're Ford guy, Chevy, Dodge, whatever, I mean, once they're 10 years old, they're pretty much all starting to rust. So, as always, if you don't mind helping me out by hitting the subscribe, leave me a comment on the video, hit the like button, whatever, and come back and watch the next one, because you just never know what we'll be working on. See you next time.